the newly constructed Harare Bridge Highway, the Moto and Jeffrey Water Treatment Plant, and of course the magnificent new Parliament building in Mount Hampton. The question we all have right now is, where is this funding coming from? Well, ask no further. As Group 7, we're going to delve right into public-private partnerships. My name is Sean Savieri. I'm a second-year law student by the University of Zimbabwe. Joining me together are my fellow colleagues from the Faculty of Law as well. Before they introduce themselves, allow me to express my sincerest most gratitude to our lecturers, Ms. Chigogora and Mr. Mapos.
My name is Mrs. Lucia Kungo. I'm a second-year law student at University of Zimbabwe. Good evening, good afternoon, and good morning. Thank you.
Hello viewers, my name is Prince Nyambisi. I'm a Part 2 law student at the University of Zimbabwe.
Hello viewers, my name is Sheoni Sukaisi. I'm a Part 2 law student at the University of Zimbabwe.
Hello viewers, I'm Rimbam Susa, Part 2 law student at the University of Zimbabwe.
Hello viewers, my name is Rimbo Serima and I'm a second year law student at the University of Zimbabwe.
To kickstart our discussion, we're going to be looking at the public-private partnerships, which are going to be referred to as the triple Ps. We're going to look at what are triple Ps, the models of triple Ps that have been adopted in Zimbabwe, the legislation that is governing the triple Ps. We're going to be looking at triple Ps at regional, at international, as well as at local level. Having been characterized by serious economic deterioration, we have seen the dilapidated state of our infrastructure in Zimbabwe. As a result, the government resorted to a way in order to improve our infrastructure. That's where we see the introduction of the public-private partnerships, the ones we'll be referring to as the triple Ps. So now, what are triple Ps, if you may ask me? Well, triple Ps, we can take them from a legal definition. Legally, triple Ps, this could be a legally binding contract between the government and the private sector, whereby the private sector agrees to finance the government in providing services and the provision of assets, as well as service delivery for the development of our nation. However, generally speaking, we can take triple Ps to be a relationship between the government and the private sector, whereby it's a relationship whereby the private sector, they finance and the government delivers.
Well, it is very interesting to know. It is not only Zimbabwe, but many different governments in Africa, regionally, internationally, they've all adopted, most of them have adopted the triple P approach. There are examples of sectors involved in triple Ps. For example, transportation, we've seen triple Ps being used to finance and build and operate many different types of transportation infrastructure, including roads, bridges, tunnels, airports, seaports, railway systems, and public transit. We also have seen the power and energy sector. Triple Ps have been used to finance and construct electricity generation plants, electrical commission lines, and natural gas pipelines. And also with the water and wastewater, triple Ps have been used to finance, design and construct and operate water treatment plants. Also with telecommunications, healthcare, education. We've also even seen development of social infrastructure, where we've triple Ps being used to finance the construction of prisons, courthouses, parliaments and other social structures. So, yeah.
Well, that's very interesting, because recently I've been following the updates and I've noticed the development of the Moto and Jeffrey Water Treatment Plant. Then I've been wondering, how is this all coming about? Then now that you've mentioned that various governments have actually partnered with private sectors, so now this makes sense. It means triple Ps are very essential, because we see our governments partnering with private sectors for the development of nations, regionally, internationally, as well as at local level. Like we mentioned earlier, the magnificent new parliament building in Mount Hampton. Very interesting indeed.
Yes. And you might also want to know that development is being informed by SDGs. For example, building sustainable community cities, where we've seen development of urban areas, to become safe, resilient, and so SDGs are also playing a very critical role to inform development. But as we know that governments are always, limited when it comes to resources. Their resources are always limited, and they tend to then look for funding elsewhere, and hence we have the triple Ps.
Very interesting and quite a nice strategy.
So we have purposes of triple Ps. One of them being complementing government role of anchoring economic growth and development through provision of enabling infrastructure and other services. E.g., we have the Marimba House project between Marimba Properties Partnership with Harare City Council, where we saw Aspindale Park, being built, and the private partner is collecting revenue for a period of about 10 to 15 years. We also, one of the purposes as well is the new financing option. It has become a new option for government for financing, because at times, the private sector can come in. It can be companies, it can be individuals, it can be different entities that can partner with the government as well. Then it also enhance or improve the lives of the citizens by benefiting, e.g., housing schemes, service delivery. Definitely we can all agree that there's also employment creation, because once the government partner with a private entity, then definitely people are going to get jobs. For example, you talk of Lupane University, where the government of Zimbabwe has partnered with the private entity in building university accommodation, and so many people have been employed because of that partnership. Then it also stimulates growth and development in the country, creation of investment opportunities for local entities, e.g. Masimba construction, harnessing private sector innovation and efficiency, and also reduce strain on the budget of the government. So the government will also now have other resources to focus on other development when they've got partners that are coming to partner with them to build infrastructure.
Clearly, triple Ps have become more of the hero and the savior of the day, because taking into consideration, as a nation, we all expect to get into a hospital and get better services. Getting into hospitals, with better treatment. Because of the introduction of the triple Ps, we've now seen the improvement of infrastructures of our hospitals. You see right now? However, the triple Ps also have their own shortcomings. We realize that now, as a result of triple Ps, there is now a lack of transparency and accountability of the management of resources, because we now have private institutions being responsible for the development, as well as from now the introduction of triple Ps, they can now lead to a lack of public participation in the decision-making processes, because normally we have the public sitting up and agreeing on what needs to be done. But now with the introduction of triple Ps, the private are now taking over this sector. So we can realize that the triple Ps, yes, they're helping, but however, they also have their shortcomings. They're also leading to a lack of public oversight over the public funds, because no one will be able now to take notice of how the funds are being used, because they are not tamed under private funds.
That is very true. Very soon we'll be looking at some laws that are put in place to regulate these triple Ps, and I've seen other laws that are actually put in place so that even the poor area can also be developed. Because if there are no laws that govern triple Ps, there will be tendencies of poor geographical areas being marginalized. But we'll look at that. Well, I do agree with you. There are disadvantages to triple Ps. But however, we are going to look at laws that govern triple Ps in a moment. But for the time being, we want to look at models of triple Ps. There are a number of them, a number of models, including, we have what we call design and build. We have also another model that is called design, build and operate. There's also another model called build and transfer. That's another different type of a scheme. Then we also have what we call build, operate, transfer and transfer scheme. And we also have what we call build, own, operate and transfer. There are quite a number of models, and it depends on what the partners agree on, because normally these models are discussed at negotiation point. Once they negotiate and agree, then the partners will adopt a scheme that they want. So what happens is, for example, let's say they agree on build operate, and transfer. So it means the private partner will build, and after building, let's say for example, it's student accommodation. After building the student accommodation, they will operate the student accommodation. And when the agreed time is up, say maybe for 30 years, then they transfer the student accommodation to the university, to the government. So even if the private partner, goes, we remain with an asset. That's a benefit. The government will take over and we tend to benefit that way. So I think triple pools really they are a good approach to development.
Okay, I get it. So you're saying just like any other legal contract, triple P's actually operate in such a way that some of the models will give room that if they agree they're going to build, let's say, a particular infrastructure, if the time frame lapses, it means they are supposed now to agree to the terms of the contract. So in simple terms, it's actually legally binding. Someone can actually get sued for not fulfilling their obligation of the contract. Well, but don't you think there are major risks that are involved when it comes to triple P's? I think maybe you should take us on major risks that are transferred in public-private partnerships.
Yes, definitely. There are risks. Just like any other contract, when the parties agree and then they adopt a model, but there's going to be effects of that contract where risk is also passed, where ownership is also passed. So definitely there are risks that can be passed. For example, on the site, a risk associated with the availability and quality of the project site, because in most cases the government will provide land to build, but there might be challenges also with sometimes the leveling of the ground or lifting of large stones that are on site, clearance of trees, which becomes more expensive to the private sector. So do we have any examples that we can do we have any examples that we can talk of, say in Zimbabwe, of triple P's where the government has partnered with triple P's?
Well, we have a lot, but I'll just mention just a few in passing. We have the Harare Bay Beach Highway. We have seen the highway being constructed and renovated by the Between and the Masimba Construction Company. This was a triple P in action. We have seen the Morton Jeffrey water plant that has been refurbished. We have also seen the Zupo initiation. We have seen the government being in a position to be able to provide public transport to the people. So in other words, we're saying the triple Ps have actually brought some good to us as a nation.
I totally agree. Last week I was in Zhishavane and I used the Harare Bay Bridge. Sure.
And it's perfect.
The government is doing a perfect job.
Definitely.
Kudos to triple Ps.
Yes, to triple Ps. Well, but those are just local examples that I've mentioned. I mean, you've said triple Ps have been adopted at regional level as well as international level. What other examples do you have at regional level?
Well, we have, well, in South Africa, we can talk of the Free State. We have the Free State Department of Health that have partnered they've entered into a 20-year concession agreement with a private player called Community Hospital Management Private Limited Company. So you find that in that agreement, the private partner, invested almost about 20 million rands. Wow. And the public sector also invested about 11 million. So that is also an example. And they've built quite a big hospital in Free State.
Do we have anything at international level? I understand in South Africa we have the Free State that is responsible for the medical services, right? How about at international level? What do we have?
We have examples of the Canada line, where we've seen the Canada line, which is a rapid transit that connects Vancouver International Airport with two cities in British Columbia and Canada. From the start, the provincial government intended this as a public-private partnership, and we have seen the government funding almost 450 million with 252 million from British Columbia and also 30 million from City of Vancouver, and we have 720 million from the private consortium, 333 million from the Greater Vancouver Transportation Authority. So you see this sector is also involved, 259 million from the Airport Authority, and 5 million from the sale of a Mousinori car park. And it's very interesting because you see this is not even just one partner. Yes. With quite a number of different private partners coming together to partner with the government, and they've built the Canada line. So that's another example.
Indeed, because you notice with these large amounts of money, right, we expect there to be massive developments. However, with this such a model, such a perfectly drafted model, what legislation has been put forward? I mean, there's supposed to be laws governing how this model will operate, because without laws governing, this model can definitely result into a disaster. So maybe let us look at the laws in Zimbabwe that are governing the triple Ps.
Okay. Very interesting, really. In Zimbabwe, we talk of the Constitution, Section 315.
Yes.
It also, gives guidance on how triple investments are supposed to be done. And we have what we call the Joint Venture Act, Chapter 22, but it is interesting to know that it was repealed.
Oh, interesting.
Yes, in the new dispensation, we now have what we call Zimbabwe Investment and Development Agents Act, also called ZIDA.
ZIDA, all right.
Yes, it's Zimbabwe Investment and Development Agents Act, Chapter 1437. It repealed the Joint Venture Act. So in this, act, all the guidelines and how triple are supposed to be regulated, everything is in the act. Only that because of time, we might not have time to dwell into all the sections. But yeah, we do have laws that are governing triple in Zimbabwe.
And that goes without saying that we all know that the Constitution is the supreme law. So which means whatever legislation that we have, it all comes down to what? The Constitution. And that is in accordance to what? Section 2 of the Constitution. Mm-hmm. So now let us look at the poor service delivery. I mean, despite the system being this well perfectly crafted, there's supposed to be its shortcomings, like in situations whereby we have maybe poor service delivery. Can you shed more light on that?
Actually, I want to talk about poor service delivery, where you see, if governments are not careful, yes, there are areas that will be marginalized, especially areas where the poor are. Mm-hmm. So some countries have come up with laws, to regulate, delivery of services in the poor geographical areas. For example, in Cambodia, they have what we call a rural electrification fund that they've put in place to make sure that in the rural areas there's also development taking place. So private entities will come and partner with the government of Cambodia and electrify the rural areas in Cambodia. Guatemala is also not excluded. We have also Ecuador. Ecuador also came up with a law, organic law on incentives for private partnerships and foreign investors. So you see all these laws, these countries are coming up with different laws to enforce development in poor area, which is very interesting.
True that.
Very interesting.
I actually agree with you because I've noticed recently, the last time I went to my raw area, I was actually surprised to notice that we now have electricity by our growth point. We no longer need to use solar. And also something that just caught my eye was I'm yet to find out whether it was a triple P, but I've noticed the development of the Binga beach. It's something that has come to us as a hit in Zimbabwe.
It is also critical to note that countries like Tanzania have partnered with triple Ps, and not only partnered with triple Ps, but they've also come up with laws to safeguard development financed by triple Ps in their country. They've come up with acts like, for example, Tanzania, they've what they call Tanzania's Raw Energy Act, which is similar to the Cambodian law, but definitely the Tanzanian one is more detailed. And this is, we've seen the Rural Electrification Board agents and fund and quite development in most rural areas in Tanzania, where they've got boreholes that are powered by solar. Quite interesting. And it is interesting to see that African countries are also taking strides in development. And this is actually, it has actually reduced electricity bill for the whole nation. And interestingly, they've also come up with policies where they've reduced taxes on people who import, any gadgets to do with solar, so as to promote people to put solar on their homes. Quite interesting. But we cannot run away from the fact that there are challenges. There are conflicts that arise. It's either it's conflicts that arise, or there is corruption, use of personal public funds for personal aggrandizement, and I would want to look at some of the conflicts. In Zimbabwe, we have maybe 2 or 3 conflicts that we can talk about. We have what we call ZESA Holding versus Intratec. Intratec was given the tender to implement a solar power project in Uganda, and could not fulfill the terms of the contract, which resulted in the dispute being taken to court. So you can see that they also have their own contracts. Once a contract is breached, then there are remedies that are supposed to be taken. National Railways, a diaspora infrastructure group, also had a conflict. There was disagreement in the refurbishment of railway locomotives by the group. The deal, which was worth almost around 400 million, the deal collapsed. Why? Because the group entered into an agreement to revive the collapsing railway company, but soon terminated the contract after DIG, which is the Diaspora Infrastructure Group, could not provide a viable funding plan. So there are times when private entities can come and claim they have money to partner with the government and develop, but at the end, then they fail to provide, a solid plan on the funding. So those are some of the conflicts in Zimbabwe. We also have what we call Geija International versus Ministry of Road and Infrastructure, an Australian company. I don't know if you've heard of an Australian company called Geija. It had emerged a partner with the government on the 2 billion dualization and rehabilitation of the Harare Bay Project, but later the tender was taken away from the Australian company because they could not, perform, and other private entities like Masimba and Bitcoin were given the tender. So yeah, there are conflicts that can also arise because of triple Cs.
Well, this is actually quite insightful, because when we look at this from a general perspective,
yes,
we tend to overlook the conflicts and the shortcomings of those triple Ps. Not to go much into it, but then there's also conflict of the clean city situation, which we had to really look further into. But then, however, we can safely conclude for what we have discussed that triple Ps, they're a work in progress.
Yes.
They have brought about bigger developments in nations, local level, regional level, international level. But however, like any other initiative, they have their shortcomings, they have their shortfalls. They had to improve. There's room for development. Rather, and so let us embrace triple Ps.
Yes.
At the same time, let us as well be open-minded, and let us be willing to accept the errors that are coming through, and be willing to support our government in correcting these errors. I think that is it about triple Ps.
Yes, very interesting. I totally agree with you. I'm a Zimbabwean, proud Zimbabwean, and I'm happy with the development that is taking place in my country. We now have good roads, like you mentioned before.
Yes.
Triple Ps. Next time it's us guys, we're going to be partnering with the government.
Definitely, I'm going to partner with the government. Why not?
Okay.